Damn it, I should have seen it all coming. If I'd had even a little foresight, it would have been crystal clear, like two trains speeding straight for each other. But I wasn't paying attention to the signs. I could excuse myself by saying one train was hidden in a tunnel, but honestly, all the signals were flashing red. I was just too wrapped up in the girl to see it. When that other train finally burst out into the open, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Okay, enough with the dramatic metaphors. Let's get real. Back in school, they were always around, always together, but nobody really saw them as individuals. They were Isla Barrett and Tessa Monroe, inseparable, better known as the twins. Same clothes, same voice, same hairstyle. It was like they shared a brain. Not actually related, but they might as well have been. They weren't exactly unfriendly either. During high school, they dated boys occasionally, but it was always double dates. If you liked one, you had to bring a second guy for the other, non-negotiable. I found them both attractive, but the whole twin package deal was too much of a hassle, and frankly, they were way too high maintenance. Didn't really matter in the end. When I turned 16, my dad lined up an apprenticeship for me in London with Uncle Walter. Get into a trade and you'll never be out of work, he said. So off I went, moved in with Uncle Walter and Aunt Irene out in the suburbs. Most of our jobs were local, and I spent one day plus an evening each week at technical college. Uncle Walter kept me busy, pushing me hard, even weekends, so I could keep up with school. Over time, my trips back home shrank from once a month to just a few times a year. By the time I finished my apprenticeship, my hometown barely felt familiar anymore. But I'd managed to save enough to get a small flat back there. With my qualifications, finding work wasn't hard and the pay was decent. My first job was on a big site building 50 houses. Then I moved on to a barn conversion project. One afternoon, during a tea break, I brought up a plain wall in the layout. The boss handed me a sketch and said, "Show me what you mean." I drew out the changes I thought would make it look better. Later, I got called into the site office. Boss, owner, and architect all waiting. After a heated back and forth, my suggestions were actually added to the official plans. When the project wrapped, the architect pulled me aside and said, "You ever think about becoming a designer? You've got an eye for it." Not long after, I signed up for part-time architecture classes while still working construction to pay my bills. One afternoon at the college library, I noticed a girl who looked strangely familiar. She gave me a quick smile and turned back to her book. I stared, trying to place her, and when she noticed, she came over to me. She flipped my book around and said, "Might be easier to read if it's not upside down, Ethan." I looked up, stunned. "Isla? Wow, you've changed." She smirked. "Is that a compliment?" "Of course. But where's Tessa?" I asked. "She's in the US, doing an internship. We were meant to go together, but my spot fell through. So I'm brushing up on Spanish here." We kept talking until the librarian gave us the death glare, then moved to the cafe. By the time she had to head to class, we already had plans for that night. I gave her a lift home in my old work van. Had tools in the back since I'd been doing side gigs. When I pulled up outside her fancy house, I had a gut feeling her parents wouldn't be thrilled. We sat there talking about school for a while until I asked if she wanted to go out the next night. Her answer should have tipped me off. "That'd be lovely, Ethan. I haven't gone out since Tessa left." That Friday at 7:30, I showed up at her place. Her dad answered the door, giving me a look like I'd tracked mud in on his carpet. One glance at my van and his opinion was made, definitely not impressed. Inside, I met her mom and younger sister Lena, who I vaguely remembered from school. They were polite enough, but her father clearly had me pegged as not good enough. Classic overprotective dad, right? Then Isla walked in, and I was floored. I'd known her for years, always thought she was cute, but that night, she looked like a dream. Absolutely stunning. I couldn't even form words at first. We hit a pub with live music and a dance floor that night. Even though we danced a few times, we mostly sat and talked. I can't remember a single thing we said, only that we seemed to click on everything. Except for one thing. Tessa. I had no real interest in her, but I faked it for Isla's sake. She clearly missed her better half. Our first date turned into a second, then a third, and by month's end, we were practically glued together. If I wasn't working or at college, I was with Isla. She'd wait by my van after night classes or bring me lunch. I was head over heels for her, and she acted like she felt the same. 3 months in, she finally stayed the night. She couldn't take the pill, so we used other methods, which, to be honest, killed the mood sometimes. Still, we found ways to keep things exciting. Isla wrote to Tessa constantly, but I didn't realize how much that shaped her behavior. Over time, her sexual preferences shifted. At first, she wouldn't even entertain anything oral. But by February, she was not only open to it, she was eager, even pushy. Eventually, we started talking seriously about engagement. I got her a ring that July, and we planned to marry after her final exams the next year. Her mom was ecstatic. Her dad, not so much. He clearly thought she was settling beneath her. Lena didn't hide her thoughts either. She actually told me I should have proposed to her instead. Then, early August, Tessa came back from America, bringing along her boyfriend, Blake Simmons. Didn't like him from the start. Loud, arrogant, always had something to prove. One night, I got home and found Isla at my flat looking upset. 3 coffee mugs were on the table. I said I'd just change and we'd head out, but she suddenly snapped. "You can't go in there. Tessa and Blake are in our bed." "Are you kidding me? That bed is my space, my sanctuary." It might sound dramatic, but I've always felt like your bed is sacred. Probably because after I moved back home from Uncle Walter's, my parents had a lodger sleeping in mine. I think they heard me yelling, because Tessa and Blake came strolling into the kitchen a few minutes later, half-dressed and grinning. Even after their lame apologies, they didn't bother changing the sheets or making the bed. Isla insisted they hadn't asked for her permission. I wanted to believe her, but with how smug they were, I had my doubts. They acted like royalty and expected everyone else to just get out of their way. While Blake was still visiting, the 4 of us started spending time together. Tessa usually borrowed her dad's car since my van only had 3 front seats. I flat out refused to ride in that car once Blake started driving, especially after they left her house. Isla always chose to ride with me, thankfully. One night, I watched half in horror, half in grim satisfaction, as Blake pulled straight out of a pub parking lot and smashed into a bus. I laid on the horn, which helped the bus driver brake in time to avoid a disaster. Blake had driven on the wrong side, something foreigners do more often than you'd think. He wasn't insured, didn't have an international license, and yet the cops accepted his American one without much fuss. After Tessa's dad showed up to deal with the mess, I took Isla home. Blake was back on a plane by the following weekend. September rolled in fast. My old van suddenly became the MVP for hauling Tessa and Isla's stuff to their new flat at uni. Now that she needed help moving, Tessa magically didn't mind riding in the van. Her dad's new Saab had been trashed in the crash, and after that, he wasn't exactly eager to lend her another car. Soon enough, both girls were settled into university life, and the house was quiet again. I missed Isla, though I can't say the same for Tessa. Even though I'd been dating Isla for a while by then, I'd only been invited over for dinner once, mainly so her dad could grill me before I asked for her hand. The week after the girls moved out, Isla's mother invited me for Sunday lunch. I got on well with her mom and Lena, who still acted like a lovesick puppy around me. Her father even started calling me son and asked me to come golfing, a hobby I'd probably have to pick up just to keep them all happy after marrying Isla. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that their warmth had an agenda. Every time Isla came home for her monthly visits, we ended up at her parents' place. I was practically part of the furniture by then. Most weekends, Tessa tagged along too, rambling on about Blake and her dream wedding, even though the guy was across the ocean. She shadowed Isla constantly, even crashing at my flat without asking. By Christmas, wedding plans were in full motion. Isla's mom and Lena ran the show, and Isla and I mostly nodded along. Her dad covered the expenses. I'd ask, "You sure about all this, Gerald?" And he'd just grin and say, "Wait till it's your turn, son. I've only got daughters." He wasn't a bad man, really. Lena kept calling it a trial run for her own big day. Gerald would just roll his eyes when she said that. Everything was smooth sailing until just after Easter. That's when Blake dumped Tessa, and not gently either. The letter he sent was cruel, even by my standards, and confirmed he was a total jerk. Now, I was never fond of Tessa, but that note was cold. A few weeks later, Isla casually suggested delaying the wedding because Tessa was feeling down. Seriously? Our wedding had to wait for her sister's emotional recovery? After graduation, both girls moved back home and quickly landed bank jobs. I kept up my routine, working long hours, juggling classes, mostly alone or with a couple of workers. At first, I still saw Isla almost every day. But then, her nights out with Tessa started increasing, once a week, then 3. She stopped waiting for me after college. The wedding was first bumped to after Christmas, then pushed again to Easter. I stayed patient, but it was starting to feel like I couldn't marry her until Tessa got herself a new boyfriend. One cold December night, I went to pick Isla up at 7:30. Only no one was home, and I hadn't heard a word from her. I spotted her car parked outside a pub just outside of town. Inside, Isla and Tessa were at a table with some random guy, hanging on his every stupid word. I found a quiet spot and watched from across the room. Isla wasn't drinking, just soda. When they stepped out around 9, she saw my van and rushed back and looking flustered. "How long have you been here, Ethan?" she asked. "Since about 8. My fiancé didn't show, so I grabbed a drink." "Why didn't you come sit with us?" she asked. "Because if you wanted me there, you'd have called. Or was this some kind of flirty little trio you didn't want me interrupting?" She snapped back. "That's not fair. Liam invited Tessa, and she didn't want to go alone. Then why didn't either of you call me? Or your mother, for that matter?" "I forgot," she mumbled. "Well, I forgot to tell you I was already here. Now get in the car, drop your guest off first." "I don't trust the guy." "Who are you calling a guy?" he barked. You slimy little clown," I shot back. He'd spent all night puffing up about how tough he was. But the moment we stepped outside, he tried to slam the door on me and bolted. "Did you really have to do that?" Isla scolded. Tessa liked him. "I didn't do anything. He ran his mouth, picked a fight, then ran like a coward. I just wanted a drink after being ditched." I turned back inside and left them standing there. Isla returned briefly to whisper something to Tessa, then they both left. The next night, I didn't pick Isla up like usual. She let herself into my flat around 8:30. "Why didn't you come get me?" "We had plans to see that movie," she said. "Oh, I forgot," I replied. "Don't give me that. This is about last night, isn't it? It's about you and the little orbit Tessa has around you. What does she have to do with this?" "Everything. If she weren't always in the picture, we'd be married by now. But every time she hits a bump, you hit pause. So here it is. Either we get married in February, or it's off. And you'll only see Tessa 2 nights a week, when I'm at college." "You can't lay down rules like that," she snapped. "I can, and I just did. I'm the guy you're supposed to want to marry, remember? But your priorities say otherwise. Figure out what you actually want. You've got until tomorrow night. Be here by 9, or don't come back. Keep or sell the ring, your choice." She tried to talk me down, but I'd had enough. The next day, while I was at work, her house wouldn't stop calling. I ignored every ring. At 9 sharp, I left for a friend's flat to keep an eye on mine. Isla showed up with Tessa and that same guy from the pub. She searched the place, found it empty, and all 3 of them left. Later, she returned alone. My friend suggested I talk to her, but I was convinced she'd already made her decision. Around midnight, Isla came back again, this time with Tessa. Neither of them left before morning, and I couldn't sneak out without being seen. I wanted them to stew, to wonder where I was. They probably figured I'd cave because I needed my van. I rang one of my workers and had him drive it to the job site. They followed the van, thinking I was behind the wheel. Then I quietly drove off in my other car, one Isla didn't even know I owned. I headed straight to the house I'd bought for us, the one still under renovation. Every time Isla pushed the wedding, work on that house stalled too. That night, I slept there. The next morning, I couldn't afford to miss college. No matter how well things were going on the construction front, or how good the money was, I still had my sights set on becoming an architect. Having that second car, the one Isla didn't know existed, really saved my skin that day. I saw both her and Tessa at college, but kept my distance. Had Isla been by herself, I might have approached her, but with Tessa there, no chance. That evening, I rang the flat. Colin mentioned Tessa had stepped out, and Isla was alone. "Ethan, where have you been?" she asked, her voice small. "That's not something you need to know anymore," I replied. "Ethan, I'm sorry, but I couldn't let Tessa go to that concert by herself." "But she wasn't alone. That guy was with her. Or was he really with you?" "He's Tessa's boyfriend. You know that. I'm your girl." "Not anymore, you're not." "Did you tell your mom to lock in the February wedding?" "No, I didn't." "You were acting so weird." "No, Isla. You were the one being off. Last night was your moment to choose, her or me. You picked her. So it's done. The engagement is finished. The wedding's canceled. And do me a favor, leave the flat in good condition. I don't even live there anymore," I added. "You've probably figured that out by now." "Then where are you living?" "In the house I bought for us. The one you never wanted to move into." "Goodbye, Isla." I hung up. The next night, her parents stopped by. They already knew about the house. I'd shared most of the plans with them months ago. Even though Isla's dad and I were never especially close, they kept my secrets about the car and the new home. They got it. They saw my side, and they had hoped Isla's love for me might eventually pull her away from Tessa's grip. But that never happened. It was a sad goodbye. They wished me well and promised not to tell Isla about the house or their visit. In their eyes, Isla would always orbit around Tessa like a satellite. Over the next few months, Isla tried a few times to talk to me, but she was never without her shadow. Every time I saw her, Tessa was glued to her side, so I refused to speak. Despite everything, Isla kept telling people we were still engaged. That led to all sorts of awkward conversations. I was trying to move forward, starting to date again, but none of it stuck. One woman, who was genuinely looking for a serious relationship, overheard Isla claiming we were still together. That turned into a messy confrontation. After that, the rumors finally died down. Time passed, and by the end of that school year, I let go of my dream of becoming an architect. Officially, it was because the building business had taken off, and it had. I'd made a name for myself through quality work and strong results. But the real reason? Isla had enrolled in one of the design courses I needed. The moment I saw her name on the roster, I walked away. Instead, I poured everything into the business and quickly became one of the town's top small builders. I rarely saw Isla or Tessa after that. Lena would pop by now and then, usually dropping hints that she could be a better match for me than her sister. She was nice enough, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Isla would always be somewhere in the background. I didn't want that ghost hanging over my shoulder, so I pulled away from Lena too. Nearly 2 years after things ended with Isla, I reconnected with Hannah, someone I'd known since school. She was a bright spot, funny, down-to-earth, and just easy to be around. We fell for each other fast and tied the knot in a quiet ceremony 8 months later. But life had other plans. Soon after we married, Hannah was diagnosed with cancer. She went into remission after a rough round of chemo, but the fear of it coming back always hung over us. Still, over the next 5 years, we built a beautiful life. Despite everything, Hannah gave me 2 incredible daughters. Then, in our 5th year, the cancer came back with a vengeance. The treatments didn't work, and she eventually chose to stop them. She stayed with us for 3 more years I'll always be grateful for, before passing away. Our daughters, 6 and 7 at the time, helped carry me through the funeral and wake. Hannah had prepared them better than I ever could have. My company had done some renovation work on her church, including rebuilding part of the wall, and we'd secured a burial plot near the main entrance for her. Though I've never been religious, I wanted her resting place to be somewhere bright and full of life. Someday, I'll be there beside her. At the house after the funeral, I was surprised to see Gerald and Lena show up. They offered heartfelt condolences and explained that Isla's mom was in hospital, which was why she hadn't come. A few days later, I went to visit her. She was in the same ward Hannah had spent her final days in. Although I was never told exactly what was wrong, she seemed to be on the mend. She asked me to call her Marjorie now and invited me to bring my daughters by once she was home. Apparently, she and Hannah had spoken quite a bit during her last days. She also mentioned that Isla no longer lived at home, so I didn't need to worry about running into her. 3 weeks later, I brought the girls over to see Marjorie and Gerald. They became almost like surrogate grandparents. Lena visited often too. People in the neighborhood assumed we were a couple, at least until her boyfriend Caleb started showing up. Caleb wanted to marry her, but Lena kept stringing him along. A familiar pattern. Both of them helped a lot with the girls, enough that I reconsidered hiring a nanny. One day, Caleb admitted he was frustrated with how long Lena was keeping him waiting. I told her flat out, "Don't mess this up. Don't let this slip away like Isla did with me." She gave me a strange look and said, "You really don't know, do you?" Eventually, she agreed to marry Caleb and asked me to be the best man. I said yes, knowing full well Isla would be at the wedding. But I wasn't about to add more stress to Lena's big day. On a warm June afternoon, I stood beside Caleb at the altar. My girls were bridesmaids, beaming in their dresses. Just as the ceremony began, Tessa and Blake walked in late, causing a stir. Lena muttered crap under her breath, except the microphone caught it, and the whole church heard. The rest of the service went off without a hitch. Outside the church, Marjorie leaned in and whispered to me. We honestly didn't think they'd have the nerve to show up. We only invited them because we figured they wouldn't travel from the States. As we made our way around the back of the church, I spotted Isla sitting off to the side with a group of women. She looked miserable. Her presence caught Marjorie off guard. She hesitated mid-sentence, then forced a smile and nodded at her daughter. Isla and I avoided eye contact. Something clearly had gone on in that family I wasn't aware of. During the photos, I noticed Isla wasn't in the lineup. Lena tried to wave her over, but she didn't budge. Then Lena looked at me and gave a little nod. I circled around quietly, approached Isla, took her arm, and guided her into the shot. "Smile, it's your sister's wedding," I whispered. "What I have to smile about?" she muttered back. "Plenty more than my wife ever got," I said. "That was her grave you nearly stepped on back there." Isla offered an apology, and I reminded her she still had reasons to be grateful. One of the ushers handed me a small bouquet, which I passed to her before returning to my spot. She managed a weak smile, but it didn't hide the tension on her face. Once the photos wrapped up, I started gathering everyone for the limos to head to the reception. My daughters came running, demanding hugs and praise for their good behavior. Naturally, they got both. Their bouquets, I noticed, had vanished, probably handed off to Isla. She'd slipped back into the crowd by then, which was honestly a relief. Tessa came over, acting cheerful, but I wasn't in the mood for her or Blake's stories. Before leaving, I made a quiet visit to Hannah's grave. There were 3 small bouquets now beside the large one I had placed earlier. I spoke to her, like I always did, even though I've never believed in the afterlife. Strange how we do that, isn't it? Talk to the dead as if they're still listening. At the hotel reception, it was obvious Isla hadn't been expected. Once Marjorie stepped away from the greeting line, she rushed to reshuffle the top table to make space for Isla. I helped without asking questions. It wasn't my business. After the dinner and speeches, I was ready to breathe easy. Being best man is more work than people think, and I wasn't ready for Caleb's curveball during his speech. He announced that Lena had nursed a crush on me for years and thanked me for convincing her to marry him instead. In my speech, I kept it light, said I hadn't known Caleb long, but if my daughters approved, that was all the proof I needed. When the speeches wrapped, the dancing began. Lena and Caleb took the floor first, then the parents, and then I joined in with the bridesmaids. Clara and I danced with my daughters. It turned into a fun little group waltz. Lena and Caleb joined in too, making it an unforgettable moment. Isla sat off to the side with her friends, nowhere near the family. Later, Lena asked me to dance and took the opportunity to say, "Meet me in the reception lounge in 10. I'll explain everything." Not here, someone might hear. After the dance, I saw her whisper to Caleb, who gave a short nod. She slipped into the ladies' room, which also opened into the foyer. I met her there, tucked into a quiet corner, and she finally opened up. "When you and Isla broke up, Mom and Dad were furious with her," she said. "They were always anxious about how close she was to Tessa, not that it was physical, but the control Tessa had. They were over the moon when you came into her life. Dad wasn't really cold toward you. He thought you were brilliant, just tried not to overdo it, didn't want to scare you off. He's always talked about your work like you're some kind of artist with bricks and timber. When Isla started stalling the wedding, we all warned her she was going to lose you. But she didn't listen, because Tessa kept whispering in her ear that she could do better, that she should keep you waiting. She couldn't see how much Tessa was manipulating her. So why did you even invite Tessa to your wedding?" I asked. "We had no choice. Her father's in business with Dad. We didn't expect them to actually show. But about Isla and the family, things fell apart after you left. About a year after you broke up, Blake proposed to Tessa and they moved to the States. Isla didn't see it coming. She realized she'd lost the only man she ever loved for a friend who used her and then ditched her. She had a breakdown. Thought you'd come back eventually. When you married Hannah, it destroyed her. She blamed us all. She spent time in a clinic after that. Isla moved to London, not just to get away from you, but because she couldn't face the family either. We cut you off to avoid slipping and telling her things you didn't need to hear. She distanced herself completely. Then Mom met Hannah in the hospital. They spoke a lot. Before she passed, Hannah asked Mom to look after you and the girls. So why was your mom so thrown when she saw Isla today? I asked. Isla came down for my Hindu, Lena explained. She looked better than she had in years. Everything was going well until someone mentioned you were the best man. She panicked, said she wouldn't come if you were here. That's why Mom redid the seating. She thought Isla had backed out. But apparently the girls convinced her to show up. They were working on her all day yesterday. Now I need a favor, Lena added, hesitating. You can say no. On your wedding day? You know I can't say no. What is it? I want you to dance with Isla. Caleb already danced with her, but she's still avoiding the family table. It's partly because you and the girls are there. She won't say no to you. Thanks for getting her in the wedding photos, by the way. I'd do anything for you, Lena. But what if she causes a scene? Or just freezes up? I asked, cautious. We've got it worked out. Caleb will ask her to dance again once we're back in the hall. You and I will be dancing, and then we'll do a little accidental switch. She'll be too stunned to argue once she's in your arms. After the song, just guide her to the family table. I think once she's there, she'll stay. Are you sure this is wise? I asked again. Honestly? No. But she needs to know we don't hate her. She needs to see you're not holding a grudge either. She was fine at my party until you were mentioned. I'm hoping this helps her. All right, I said. Let's do it. Lead the way. Oh, Ethan, don't sound so thrilled. Lena laughed. I'm just teasing, I smiled. By the way, your mom said she's coming to see me tomorrow. Said she has something for me? She does. You'll be in, right? Definitely. The girls are so excited, they probably won't sleep. Lena slipped her arm through mine, and we returned to the hall. The band had started playing a soft waltz. We joined the dancers, and I saw Caleb gently steering Isla our way. The bump happened just as planned, and partners were swapped with practiced ease. Isla looked startled when she found herself dancing with me. She tensed immediately, like she might bolt. Relax, Isla, I said softly. Just breathe. She did relax, maybe too much, leaning into me like she had nowhere else to stand. When the waltz ended, I half-supported her to a seat beside her mother. Gerald took the other side, and I returned to my daughters. The music was too loud to catch what was said, but I was glad to see Isla actually talking to her parents for once. By 11, I decided it was time to take my girls home. They'd had a full day and were long past bedtime. Lena and Marjorie kissed us goodbye, and my daughters, being polite, gave Isla a quick kiss too. They didn't seem to recognize her. The next morning, we slept in, which was rare for them. When they woke, they were bouncing with excitement, ready for the pool, but refused to swim without an adult. That was a rule Hannah had always been firm about. Just before noon, Marjorie and Gerald arrived. The way my daughters lit up at the sight of them told me everything I needed to know. They'd bonded. My own parents had always favored my brother's kids, and Hannah's parents had been too far away to build much closeness. After everyone got settled with cold drinks, Marjorie asked if she could speak to me privately. Gerald stayed behind, playing with the girls as we moved into the lounge, where we could still keep an eye on them. From her bag, Marjorie pulled out an envelope. Hannah asked me to give this to you 6 months after after she passed, she said gently. She wrote part of it herself. The rest, she dictated when she got too weak. I took the envelope slowly, already feeling the lump in my throat. I'll give you a moment, Marjorie said. If you want to talk after, I'm here. I opened the letter, half written in Hannah's shaky handwriting, the rest in Marjorie's tidy script. Hey, lover boy, how are you and our girls getting on without me? By now, it's been 6 months since I left. I asked Kathy to wait this long before handing you this letter. It's hard to write this. I don't even know how to start or what exactly to say. Please forgive me if my thoughts come out messy. I feel guilty, not just for dying, but for marrying you in the first place and bringing all my baggage into your life. We'd only been dating a couple of weeks when the doctor gave me the news. I didn't know if I should tell you. I was afraid you'd stick around out of obligation. And you're that kind of man, too good for your own sake. But I have to say this clearly. I loved you. And I know you loved me not out of pity, but truly. When you encouraged me to have the girls, knowing full well you might be raising them alone, that's how I knew it was real. I'm sorry. I can never repay the love you gave me. Ethan, I've loved you more deeply than I thought possible. I know you don't believe in heaven, but maybe one day you'll be proven wrong. And maybe I'll be waiting. There, hardest part done. Now, you need to think about what's ahead for you, and for our girls. I've got one big favor to ask. Please find someone who can be a mother to our daughters. They'll need one as they grow, and you'll need a partner too. I've spoken to Marjorie about it. I think I know the right person, and I think you do too. Marjorie told me about Isla, about what happened between you two. She told me how much Isla loved you, still does. She was under that awful girl's thumb. I know it's cruel to say, but the truth is that whole mess worked out in my favor. Even if it broke your heart. They say God works in mysterious ways. Please consider finding your way back to Isla. Show her the same patience and love you gave me. I believe she still loves you. I know she will love our daughters too, maybe not like I did, but close. At that point, the writing shifted to Marjorie's careful hand. Marjorie and Gerald have been amazing to me while I've been in the hospital. And I've come to know Lena too. She visited just recently. She loves you too, you know. Ethan, you really are something. So many people love you. Marjorie promised she'd keep an eye on you and the girls. You know they don't have grandchildren of their own yet. Let them love our girls like they're theirs. Please. Kathy has been my rock through long, lonely nights. If all goes as I hope, Gerald and Marjorie will become the girls' true grandparents. I have nothing more to say, but thank you. Thank you for loving me. If I can, I'll always be watching over you. Goodbye, my love. Till we meet again. Hannah. Her signature was shaky but unmistakable, followed by 8 kisses, one for each year we'd shared. I don't know how long I sat there crying before Marjorie returned with a cup of tea. She must have seen everything through the lounge window. I looked around, startled when I realized I couldn't hear the girls anymore. It's okay, Marjorie said softly. Gerald took them out for ice cream. It's warm enough for swimsuits today. Thanks, Marjorie. I wiped my eyes. You read the letter, didn't you? Yes, she nodded. But it's your letter. You're under no obligation to act on Hannah's suggestion about Isla. I'll never speak of it unless you want to. Thank you, Marjorie, I said, appreciating her tact. But what do you think about Hannah's idea? I won't advise you, Ethan. I'm Isla's mother. It wouldn't be fair of me to influence you. But if you're going to decide, you should try spending time with her first. I'm just not sure she'd even want me anymore. I admit it. It's been years. A lot has happened. I'm doing my best to stay neutral, Marjorie said carefully. But Isla mentioned yesterday how lovely your girls are. She said she wished they were hers. She regrets not marrying you. She just doesn't know how to undo the damage. I still care for her, I confessed. Leaving her was the hardest thing I've ever done. I had to force myself to stay angry just to cope. Are you going to try again? Marjorie asked quietly. I want her for Hannah's sake. But I need to see who Isla is now. And more importantly, I need to see how she connects with the girls before I even think about anything deeper. You're absolutely right, Marjorie agreed. The girls come first. Yes, I nodded. They need to feel it. That it's natural. If it feels like someone's trying to replace their mother, it'll ruin everything. And I couldn't hurt Isla like that, not again. Marjorie leaned in and kissed my forehead gently. She knew you well, Ethan. Better than any of us. She always said you were the most thoughtful man she ever met, Marjorie said warmly, and I felt my face go red. I cleared my throat. So, how do we even begin to get the girls and Isla in the same space? I asked, shifting the topic. Trying to change the subject, are you? Marjorie teased. The girls mentioned missing your pool parties. Why not host one in a couple of weeks? Isla's coming down for a family gathering after Lena and Caleb get back from their honeymoon. It's meant to help rebuild ties. If you host the party, Gerald and I can help with the cooking, she continued. Isla wouldn't know ahead of time, and even if she gets uncomfortable, she might stay. You'll be busy with guests, and Lena and Caleb can help entertain the kids. We'll see how she interacts with the girls. That actually sounds like a good plan, I said. The girls have mentioned the old pool parties, but without Hannah, it feels different. She was always the spark of everyone. Hannah would have loved the idea, Marjorie said gently. Remember, she wanted you to find another mother for them. 2 weeks later, I woke to the sound of my daughters chatting with someone downstairs. Dragging myself out of bed, I found Lena and Caleb unloading their car, full of supplies. Only then did I realize how much work Hannah had quietly put into these pool dos, as she called them. They brought things I hadn't even thought about. Little essentials she always took care of without me noticing. Lena told me later that the girls had given Marjorie a list of forgotten items when she called the night before. I asked them why they hadn't told me themselves. Their answer? You'd be too busy, Daddy. The moment I stepped outside to mow the lawn, I thought, Hannah, you really trained us all, didn't you? By early afternoon, some of my crew showed up with their partners, followed by neighbors and their kids. Marjorie and Gerald arrived around 1:30, and with them came Isla. She looked uncomfortable at first, like she hadn't expected to see me, but she soon loosened up. I spotted her laughing with Lena in the pool, playing with the kids. I had a feeling the swimsuit she was wearing actually belonged to Lena. It looked familiar. I spent most of the day mingling, often alongside Caleb. He seemed more than happy to tell me about their honeymoon. Well, everything except the private parts. Judging by what he didn't say, I suspect they didn't leave the bed for 2 days. It's funny how silence sometimes says more than words. By around 9 that evening, I figured it was time for the little ones to wind down. Caleb gave me a look and nodded toward the house. Isla had gone up with Lena to help put the girls to bed. Half an hour later, when the sisters returned downstairs, I went up to say goodnight. As I entered their room, my eldest asked, "Daddy, is that really her?" "Who are you talking about?" I asked. "Is she going to be our new mummy?" The younger one chimed in. "Wait, what?" I blinked. "Where on earth did you get the idea there'd be a new mother?" "Don't be silly, Daddy," my oldest said. "Mummy told us ages ago that you'd find someone else to be our new mummy." "Oh, did she now?" I said. "And what else did your mummy tell you that she forgot to tell me?" "She said Lena's sister would probably be the one," the younger answered matter-of-factly. "We're supposed to help you catch her." "Catch her?" I repeated, eyebrows raised. What exactly did she mean by that? "Mummy said Isla got away the first time, but if you ever started being nice to her again, we should help you catch her," my eldest explained. I sat on the edge of the bed and muttered, "Hannah, you really set me up, didn't you?" "Sorry, Daddy, I didn't catch that," the little one said. "Oh, nothing, love. I was just saying a prayer to your mummy. Now give me a kiss goodnight, and we'll talk more tomorrow." "Is Isla coming over again?" the youngest asked as I got up. "She might," I said carefully. "We'll see. If she doesn't, can we go see her?" my eldest added hopefully. There's a moment in everyone's life when you know you're done resisting. That moment had arrived for me. "All right, girls. If Isla doesn't come visit us, we'll go visit her, okay? Now, time for sleep." "Good night, Daddy," they said in unison. I'm fairly sure I heard a pair of giggles as I pulled the door closed behind me. When I got to the top of the stairs, I sat down. The sounds of the party floated in from the backyard. Someone was clanging around in the kitchen. But I needed a moment to sit with my thoughts, especially after what the girls had just said. "Get a grip, Ethan. Don't go losing it now." Since Hannah passed, I'd been drifting, working, surviving, but not really thinking. Now, suddenly, everything was loud and clear. The girls liked Isla. From the moment they saw her at the wedding, I saw it in their eyes. The question now wasn't about them, it was about me. Did I still care for Isla? What a stupid question. Like her? I loved her. Or, I had loved her, right? Once upon a time. I pushed her away because I didn't want to share her with Tessa. But Tessa wasn't part of the picture anymore. Now it was my girls. And strangely, I could imagine sharing them with Isla. How did this whole question get turned around on me? Then it hit me. Something Hannah had said more than once. "Half of you is enough for me." What did she mean by that? Had I never truly given her my whole heart? Did she always know a piece of me still belonged to Isla? Damn, that woman knew me inside out. Why does life have to be so bloody complicated? Wouldn't it be easier to be one of those people who see life in clean, black and white terms? I tried to sort it out logically. Do I love Isla? Yes, I believe I do. Do the girls love her? Not yet, not really. But they like her. A lot. And more importantly, they're open to her. They've only just met her, but already, they're willing to imagine her in their lives. That says something. It says a lot, actually. So, the big question, does Isla like the girls? From what I saw at the pool, she was completely taken with them. No, that wasn't an act. That's not how Isla operates. She looked genuinely happy, really in it with them. You could see something forming there, a connection starting to take root. And now for the real question. Does Isla still love me? Well, there's only one way to answer that. You daft fool. Go ask her. Outside, most of the remaining guests were lounging in a big circle around the patio near the pool. Caleb was on drink duty, keeping everyone's glasses full. Gerald was still scrubbing down the barbecue, probably with more care than I'd ever given it. As I approached, Marjorie stood and came over to me quietly. "Isla and Lena are in the kitchen doing some washing up," she said. "This might be the perfect moment to speak with Isla alone while her hands are full. Lena knows to make herself scarce when you walk in." "Between you and my two girls," I said with a grin, "you're all working pretty hard to get Isla and me married off again." "Ethan," Marjorie replied with a smile, "I promise, we haven't said a word to Isla about that. But the girls did ask her a few awkward questions earlier. We didn't see that coming." "I can imagine," I said, shaking my head. "I think Hannah had this all mapped out for ages. Just wish she'd let me in on it." "Tell me something, Marjorie. How long had you known Hannah? You didn't just meet her at the end, did you?" She paused, then said, "No, Ethan. We met at the cancer support group. Didn't she tell you?" "No. Hannah never really talked about that part," I admitted, feeling the weight of it. "So, she was planning all this, getting Isla and me back together?" "I honestly don't know. Marjorie said. But once she realized who I was, she asked about you and Isla. I just told her what I saw. Still, she did say more than once that if you two ever found your way back to each other, she'd stop worrying about you and the girls. Damn it, I muttered with a sigh. Hannah always knew me better than I knew myself. Women's intuition, Marjorie said. You chose well when you married her. Now go on, have that quiet word with Isla. I stepped into the kitchen. Isla was at the sink, sleeves pushed up, washing dishes. Lena stood beside her, drying. Before Isla noticed me, I reached out and gently took the drying cloth from Lena's hand. She gave me a soft smile, handed it over, and slipped out without a word. For a few minutes, Isla and I worked in silence. She washed, placed dishes on the draining board. I dried and put them away. Then, as she set down a plate, my hand reached for it. She must have noticed. She turned to look at me. Been a long time since we did this together, Isla, I said quietly. She didn't answer, just watched me. I placed the plate in the rack and reached out again. Without a word, she handed me the next plate she was about to wash. Doesn't it need to go in the water first? I asked, teasing gently. Oh, sorry, I wasn't thinking, she said, flustered, as she took it back and dipped it into the sink. I'd say you were thinking. Just, not about the dishes, I said softly. What were you thinking about, Isla? Do you really want to know? She asked, her voice barely holding steady. I wouldn't ask if I didn't, I said. I was thinking about what a bloody idiot I am, she whispered. And why's that? I asked, heart thudding in my chest. Because I had the chance to spend my life with you, and I let it go. How could I have been so stupid? Maybe you weren't stupid, I said. My wife, Hannah, she believed in fate. Me? Not so much. But she always said the Lord moves in mysterious ways. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had something to do before we could be together. And maybe you have something to do now. Isla looked at me, confused. Like what? Well, upstairs there are 2 little girls missing their mom. They seem to think you were chosen for the job, I said gently. She blinked at me, processing. They wore those new dresses as Lena's bridesmaids, I went on. And now they want to wear them again, for your wedding. Her eyes widened. Ethan, are you asking me to marry you? I shrugged slightly. No, I already asked you years ago. Still waiting for you to give me a date. Wrong thing to say. The plate she was washing slipped right out of her hands and shattered in the sink. At the same moment, I dropped mine as I lunged forward to catch her. 2 plates gone, and Isla practically fainting into my arms. The crash brought everyone running, Marjorie and Lena from the hallway. 2 little girls who definitely should have been in bed, and Gerald from outside. I had a sneaking suspicion they'd all been eavesdropping. They entered the kitchen to find Isla in my arms. Marjorie and Lena both started crying. My daughters were beaming, thrilled by the moment, though they didn't understand the tears. Neither did they quite get why their daddy and Isla had tears in their eyes too. I thought you 2 were asleep, I said, trying to pull myself together. We were, said the youngest. But we heard something and came down. I'll take them back up, I offered. No, Isla said softly. Let me. I need to get used to looking after them anyway. She let go of me, knelt down, and reached for their hands. Come on, girls. We've got lots to talk about. Marjorie truly outdid herself after that. 1 month later, it was our wedding day. Caleb and I arrived at the church early, and I asked him to give me a moment. I walked quietly over to Hannah's grave. Well, love, I said softly, you really set me up, didn't you? I know this was your plan all along, so I hope you're not up there scolding me for going through with it. I think you were right. Isla's going to be a wonderful mother to the girls. Look, Hannah. I hope you know what you've started here, I said quietly. Isla's going to want children of her own one day, and when things start getting cozy, don't hold it against me, all right? I gave her grave a final nod. Anyway, I'd better get going. I'll bring the girls back in a couple of weeks. Isla and I are heading off for a short honeymoon tomorrow. I'll fill you in when I'm back. Bye for now, babe. 10 minutes later, I stood before that same altar, but this time, I'd swapped places with Caleb. To my surprise, my entire family had shown up. That had Marjorie's fingerprints all over it. She could talk the devil into wearing white gloves. What really puzzled me was seeing 8 of my workers all wearing brand new, identical suits. Unless they got a bulk discount, which I seriously doubted. That kind of coordination meant they were up to something. Even stranger, they weren't sitting with their families, but instead lined the aisles, flanking the pews. At the end of the ceremony, they quietly slipped out before Isla and I began the walk down the aisle. As we reached the church doors, we were greeted by the 8 of them standing in formation, shovels held upright on their shoulders. Someone barked a command, and in unison, the shovels snapped to attention, then formed a neat archway for us to walk beneath. "You sneaky buggers," I muttered as we paused beneath it for photos. "We're not done yet, Raj," one of them whispered with a wink. I braced for whatever stunt they had planned next. After the usual round of group shots, Isla was handed a large bouquet. Just as we were heading toward the waiting limo, she suddenly stopped. "Ethan, would you mind waiting here for a minute? There's something I need to do," she said, her voice soft but firm. I watched as she walked alone toward Hannah's grave and placed the bouquet gently beside the one I'd left earlier. She stood there for a few moments, speaking quietly. Whatever she said was just for Hannah. Then she gestured toward our daughters, who rushed to her side and laid their small bouquets down as well. And just like that, I realized something I should have figured out before. Those 3 bouquets at Lena's wedding? They had come from here. When Isla returned to my side, we continued toward the car, only the limo had vanished. In its place stood my old Bedford van, looking better than ever. The last time I'd seen it was 3 weeks back when the lads said they were cleaning up the yard. I'd assumed it had been scrapped. Now, it gleamed with fresh paint, ribbons fluttering from the roof rack, and a driver in full chauffeur livery waiting at the wheel. The side door slid open, revealing a plush bench seat in the back. "It's a convertible, boss," one of the guys whispered. "Feeling impatient? Just pull the lever, boom. It's a bed." Isla and I climbed in, laughing. The door was left open as we rolled slowly toward the reception. That night, we spent our first night together as husband and wife. I woke at some ridiculous hour to find Isla quietly sobbing beside me. "What's wrong, babe?" I asked, instantly worried. What a dumb thing to say. "Nothing," she said, wiping her eyes. "I'm just happy, but also furious with myself for how I treated you back then. I really thought you'd wait forever." "Well, you were partly right. We're here now. So stop living in the past," I said, pulling her close and kissing her. We never brought up the past again. The girls quickly started calling Isla mother, never mummy. That title stayed reserved for Hannah. I never found out whose idea that was. But Isla often asked them how mummy would do things and followed their lead. Several years passed peacefully. Then one evening, while we were watching a movie together, the house phone rang. Our eldest picked it up while I paused the video. "Who is it?" I asked, half listening. "Mother, it's for you," she called back. Someone named her Tessa. Isla walked over, took the phone, pressed the speaker button, and set it down. "Hi, Tessa. How are you doing?" she asked, calm and polite. "Oh, Isla, it's so good to hear your voice. I'm a mess. I caught Blake cheating, and now I'm getting a divorce. I really need to see you. Just the 2 of us, like old times." "Well, I suppose I could meet you for lunch," Isla said. "Hold on. I'll check my diary," she added, grabbing her hand back. I stared at her in disbelief. She was actually considering meeting Tessa again? She caught the expression on my face and gave me a little smirk. "What's today's date?" she asked aloud, not to anyone in particular. "August 3rd, came Tessa's voice over the speaker. "How about the 6th of August? 2026. Isla replied, cool as anything. "I might be free by then." 20. What? That's 20 years from now. "You've got to be joking," Tessa sputtered. "No joke, Tessa. By then, all 3 of our children should be out of the house. So I might actually have time for lunch with you." 3 kids? I thought Ethan only had 2. "Well, actually," Isla said, glancing my way, "we've got 2 and a bit right now. Could end up 2 and 2 bits. Twins run in my family." She reached over and ended the call. The girls were the first to laugh. It took me a second longer to process it. "Wait, twins?" I said, stunned. "That's what the doctor suspects," Isla replied with a grin. "But it's still early, so I wasn't sure I should say anything just yet." "You were going to wait to surprise me?" "I wanted to be sure before telling you, and the girls."